On my journey to help create 1,000 new millionaires, I'm going to give you the lessons that I've learned, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, let's get into it. The first lesson I learned is that you only need one yes out of 100. In 2010, I was trying to get into the music touring business, working in live music on tour. And I had already worked with a lot of garage bands and indie artists, and I wanted to take it to another level and work on arena level concert tours. What I figured out back then was that it was a math game. For 2 months, I researched 100 tour managers and production managers online, and I learned a little bit about each one of them. I sent each of them an email, and it had a little bit of curated custom information in each video. So it wasn't just throwing something against the wall and seeing what would stick. It was very deliberate. It took 2 months. My goal was to get on a tour. People often get hung up on hearing the word no. It'll stop some people in their tracks. But I want to tell you why this should not only be something that you get used to, but it should be part of your strategy, because it's all a math game at the end of the day. When I sent those 100 emails out, I received 20 responses. Those 20 responses turned into 3 in-person meetings, and those 3 in-person meetings turned into 1 major gig. I ended up touring with an international artist on a world tour for years based on doing that one thing. And it was because I had patience, I had a plan, and I was not afraid to hear no. That one yes was a man named Jeff Perrin, and he's still a mentor to this day. Jeff is a real character. He's British, but has lived in Houston for 30 plus years. So he has a real interesting Crocodile Dundee kind of accent going. And he does not mince words. He does not like most people, and he's very straightforward. But he taught me things that I still use today in my career as a venture capitalist. We went on tour, and from the first day I worked with him, he was teaching me something. And I would have never had that experience if I hadn't gone out and sent those 100 emails. Was I worried? Yes. Was I concerned no one would answer? Of course I was. And did it hurt to hear no from people, multiple people? Of course it did. But when you realize that it's a numbers game, all of that does not matter at the end of the day. What matters is, can you get to the one yes? Over my career in venture capital and all of the companies I've started, getting to the one yes out of 100 has helped me each step of the way. The key here is persistence and strategy and seeing the bigger picture. If you're feeling stuck, it may mean that you need to do something a little different. And if you can develop that tough skin and learn about the math game that we're talking about, things can change. Another cool thing about this lesson is that it's something that you have control of. Because remember, I was broke. I didn't have a place to live. I was trying to figure things out. But what I could control was the output. What I could control was the research that I did. All of that planning I had in my control. And the fact that I did it. Most people just wouldn't have done that. And we all heard Lady Gaga talk about this. It only takes one yes to change the course of your life. The second lesson that I've learned is to think in decades, not quarters. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people think about what's going to happen tomorrow, today, next week, even this year, planning out this year. And if something goes wrong, if something comes out of nowhere and throws you off, I used to be like this, right? I would get so worried, so panicked, and I wouldn't have a plan. And on top of that, I would think, oh, this failure, this thing that happened, this bad thing is going to throw me off course for everything else that I have planned. Well, if you think in decades and not quarters, these small bumps along the road are almost meaningless. Here's something you can do right now to test this. Think back a year ago. Do you remember what was going on a year ago in your life? Do you remember an email that came through that made you panic? This is something else you can do. If there's something, is there an email right now in your inbox that's giving you pause, that's giving you concern, anxiety? Will it matter in 1 year? That's a really great way to take that anxiety off of your plate. You still address it, you still care about it, but it has different meaning. It does not control you, it does not own you. Also, have the patience and be in the long game, and you can outlast all your critics, all your doubters and all your haters. Most people who are critics, doubters, and haters don't last very long because they're in a toxic situation. They're not thinking long-term. If they were thinking long-term, they would not have time to criticize you. So if you can get into that mindset, the world is your oyster. Another thing about time and patience is that both are needed to see what kind of great investor you are. So I'm an investor by trade, right? It's going to take years and years and years to understand just how good I am. And I've been investing for several years and I've been able to see the fruit of that labor so far. So if you don't give yourself time, if you don't give yourself patience, you will never see the greatness that could become. You will never see the greatness that you can achieve. We love quick wins. They make us feel good, they validate us, and sometimes they're necessary. They're great, but it's the long-term gains. Speaking of long-term gains, did you know that when you make an investment or you own part of your company and you have an exit that's shorter than 1 year, you get taxed more than if you are waiting and you're patiently waiting and hold that for more than a year? That's just a really great way to describe and understand how lucrative patience can really be. We'll also touch on this in lesson number 4 because it matters so much. So lesson number 3 is forgiveness is a productivity hack. I learned this mostly the hard way, but since I learned it and understood this, my whole life has changed. There have been dozens of times at Backstage Capital, my venture fund, where we have thought we were going to have an investor come in, because they said they would, and something fell through, either on their side or something happened in the world. It's happened there, it's happened with sponsors, it's happened with investments we wanted to make. There have been so many disappointments. I remember the first time this happened at Backstage Capital, someone was going to invest $100,000. And at this point, I think I'd raised maybe $1 million. And so $100,000 was a big deal. And we were making investments of $25,000 each. So that meant that 4 companies were going to be invested in when this person came in with their money. And it was all written out, it was all yes, and we were feeling good about it. And then the day that this $100,000 wire was supposed to come in, I got an email, not even a phone call, I got an email that said, I've changed my mind. I've simply changed my mind. And if it were just about me and I wasn't going to get this money, then, I would deal with that. But I thought about these 4 founders who were all women or of color or both, who were not getting that money that they knew that was coming in from us, from Backstage. And it was our responsibility to give them that money. And the moment I was angry, I was frustrated, and I didn't know what to do. Over time, this would go on to happen so many times that I just got a thick skin about it. And the thing I learned was you should not count the money before it's in the bank. What I learned to do was to forgive. Didn't say forget, because I'm telling you the story, so I definitely remember it. But forgiveness is a productivity hack. If I had not forgiven that person or the people that followed, I would be caught up. I would be stuck. I would be rudderless. The toxicity would have eaten me alive. They went on with their lives. They moved on. And if I didn't move on, which so many of us, we get stuck thinking about this, then I would have been stuck. And I'm telling you this, and I'm saying it's a lesson that I've learned, but let me tell you, I still go through this. There are a couple of people in my life who I'm having trouble forgiving. But every time I think about it, I remind myself, I say the words to myself, sometimes out loud, forgiveness is a productivity hack. I get way more done. I have so much to accomplish, and I cannot let them hold me back. I can't let the circumstances and what happened and what they said and what I said, I can't let that hold me back from what is so important. And so when I remind myself of those words, when I think about it, it truly helps me, and I hope it helps you. Forgiveness has truly become my productivity hack, my ultimate one. Another part of this is simply knowing your value so that you don't let the petty take over. You are worth more than this. You are better than this. And those thoughts help me. The 4th lesson that I've learned, and this may be the most important one, we'll see. The 4th lesson I've learned is to learn to be paid for your existence and not your time. Learn to be paid for your mere existence and not just by your time. In my first book, It's About Damn Time, that came out in 2020, I said that money attracts money, but what if you don't have money? You become money. How do you become money? By learning as much as you can, because no one can take that away from you. So stacking your information, your research, and then your skills, and you become more and more valuable. You can just see the dollar bills stacking as you grow. So when you take those skills and that knowledge, that information, that then becomes wisdom, and you combine that with a growing reputation for doing what you say you'll do, showing up, being on time, literally and figuratively. So then you become someone who's valued by who you are and not so much how many hours you're doing something. That's the biggest takeaway, actually. I'm going to call it. I think this number 4 lesson is the biggest one. It's the most important one. It's the one that helped me go from being broke, from sleeping on the floor of the San Francisco airport just a few years ago, not knowing when I was going to eat next, not knowing where I was going to sleep next, to generating and raising tens of millions of dollars in just a few years. It's because I learned all of these different steps I'm talking about, and they led to me understanding who I am and what I can become is way more valuable than the hours that I can put into something. So going back to the second lesson, long-term thinking helps you become more valuable, because the more into the future you can see and the more patient you can be, the bigger your plans can be, the more audacious you can be in your thinking. They call them moonshot ideas, and I have so many of them, and I bet you do too. Okay, we have one more huge lesson. I am dead set on helping you become a millionaire, but you can't do that, and I can't talk to you if I'm not showing up on your home screen. So set that to subscribe, set the notifications, do all the things. Okay, good, right? Are we good? We good? Okay, thank you. Okay, the number 5 lesson, last but certainly not least. You are your most important investment. I was recently asked by a friend, because I get questions like this all the time from friends and strangers alike, how should I invest my money? And this particular friend had $10,000 extra, and they wanted to know how they should invest it. And I think I surprised them by my answer. I said to them, I'm not going to tell you exactly what to invest in, but what I can tell you is that you take a portion of that $10,000 and invest in yourself. Go to the conference, take the course, learn the lesson, buy the clothes that make you feel right, go on a staycation at a local hotel or Airbnb. Do the thing that levels you up, because when you feed into yourself, when you pour into yourself, you are exponentially changing the trajectory of your life. It is the most important thing you can do, and it's the thing that helps you build the value that we talked about earlier. If you don't take care of yourself, if you don't give yourself that moment to soak it all in, and if you don't level up, it's gonna be like this, like this, like this. What you wanna do is you wanna go up, and you're gonna have moments where you're just stagnant, but you're gonna go up. And before you know it, you're up here and you didn't even realize it. Yes, it might take a few years. Yes, there will be a lot of struggles along the way. I've had so many, and I will continue to have them because we're human. But if you can focus on 3 things, investing in yourself in 3 ways, through your experiences, through education, and through self-care, then you will be ahead of the game. Most people don't think of it like that. Most people pour into others. Most people are actually damaging themselves in some of the decisions they make, but you're smarter than that. You're better than that. You're going to figure this out, and I will see you in my list of 1,000 people that I've helped become a millionaire.